Pardon me while I spit this out. Shallow thoughts with Waptek. Firearms education versus sex education. Which one has a higher danger rate? Civics classes. Puritans that want to tell everybody how to behave and do thought policing that we call social justice warriors, using buzzwords like objectification, versus Puritans in the past that were traditionalists that yelled tradition and that you have to have God, country, and guns and religion and stuff. People who are liberals being called conservatives. Who's more insulted? Someone posted a really stupid and very obviously needed to be answered question. Is there a right-wing equivalent to a social justice warrior? Yeah, actually there is. We refer to them as, used to call them Bible thumpers, but really the Bible's not relevant. Sort of like a social justice warrior pounding on a legal dictionary or anything close to that and never reading it. Same sort of thing, isn't it? How about the bathroom problem? We have to have, gender debates over bathrooms. Okay, here you go. When you get people who call themselves conservatives or maybe leaning conservative, and you get people who are liberals or at least leaning liberal, all getting together on the internet and figuring out they're being lied to and realizing they don't agree necessarily on what needs to be done, but they're damn sure what doesn't need to be covered. And everything that doesn't need to be covered is espoused by groups of people like the Westboro Baptist Church and your local Black Lives Matter activist that does not want to actually solve a problem because it would put them out of a job, a career of ideological preaching. Roll on by. We used to teach civics. You used to also get taught a traditionalist way of courting so that you could function in society and maybe get along. We had sock hops and stuff like that before I was born. I don't even want to know what that was like. I'm sure it was some horrible thing. And people could, in this country, we're in a country that used to value civics and patriotism and my country right or wrong. My country if it's right, and if it's wrong I'll put it right. Right? So the gods and tradition and unquestioning loyalty shifted away to 50s and 60s. Defiance and rebellion against everything. Rebel without a cause kind of thing. And we end up now with people who literally don't have anything to complain about. A lot of the things have been solved. They can be activists marching in the street, but it's like they're aimless. So they create something to have a problem with. Because there's just got to be something there. When you're younger than I am, when you're under a specific age group of like 25 or whatever, everything is aggravating and needs to be fixed. It's all problematic and triggering. And then you get a little older and you realize, I might have done damage. I might have contributed to something that I can't stop. You're a heartless bastard if you're not a liberal when you're young, and you're an idiot if you're not a conservative when you're older. And I'm going to be 50 eventually, I hope. And you start getting accused of being a conservative when you tell people that what they're talking about doing doesn't work that way, or just simply arguing with them, or they call you a liberal, or they call you a Marxist or whatever. Instead of just calling you to show up and let you speak and then they respond to it. SJWs are notorious for doing a very simple behavior group. And this sounds familiar because it matches up another group, Gish Gallopers. Gee Willikers. Number one, saying things that are simply demonstratively untrue. Just lying. Two, finding some way to prevent you from responding by literally heckling you. Number three, trying to set up a situation where they control how the debate is done so they can get away with it, but you can't, making sure there's an unfair advantage. Next, denying all of that. And then last, not least, not wanting to be compared with the exact polar opposite of ideological horse crap on the other side of the fence. So, someone asked, and I'm going to repeat this, I'm sure, is there a right-wing equivalent to social justice warrior? Yes. It's not actually any different at all. There's not an equivalent on either side. It's the same pathological, strategic, tactical crap. And the majority of the population is aware of it because we see it in every politician. You know, let's talk about bathrooms and gender issues. Unless you were really rich, you didn't grow up with 2 bathrooms. You had to have a bathroom that had a lock on it, 1 toilet, 1 sink, 1 bathtub. In a public place, it's a toilet and a sink. And many of the coffee shops, I don't know if you know this, are only required to have 1 bathroom. They don't want to have 2 because that's just extra stuff. So they don't. So it's a gender-neutral bathroom. And if they have 2 of them, if they're smart, because this way there won't be a line of some sort or some other issue, they just say it's for anybody human. Just walk in, just make sure, you know, if you can open the door, no one's in there. When you go in, lock the door to keep someone from coming in, and that's it. There's no, oh, it might be some guy dressed up as a girl going in there. Who cares? He's the only one in. 1 occupant per restroom. Well, you can't do that under some conditions. I know. And under those conditions, you have men's rooms with lots of stalls if you're lucky, or no stalls if you're not, military style, or you know, women's rooms. And they'll be appointed differently. Speaking as a janitor at one point, I self-identify as an attack helicopter gender-neutral janitor. The bathrooms that the men and women use aren't actually different by any means at all. There's only a small difference. A convenience item in both. 1 for males so that they don't have to sit down to relieve themselves, but that doesn't matter because we could just use the toilet when there's too many people. And 2 for women, a special garbage can because they don't understand that you don't flush certain items. Or you can just put a garbage can in each stall. This is what they did. It's a garbage can. That's it. Those are the only real differences, and yeah, they're on a set of screws. You can pull them off the wall or just not plumb them. And just put a trash can in there and just put up a sign, don't flush anything except human waste and tissue paper. That's actually written on lots of things, do not flush. Sort of like, you know, external use only and other things people ignore. Distracting people with supposed social ills or a lack of traditional values on the other end of the spectrum is horse crap so that you won't vote against the person who can't set up an email server correctly or another person who can't help himself but keeps saying crap that proves that he's an idiot. And by the way, that includes every single other person besides Hitler. All of them this year were dumb. When was the last time that happened? The last time we had an election. So, let me review. You know, I can solve all your problems here. Find a solution that doesn't involve angry people yelling at the top of their lungs that they're right and not listening. As soon as someone does that, they are trying to make sure you're sandbagging and can't solve a problem. If you consistently apply this rule to every blasted problem by firing every politician that won't adhere to this rule, the problems will go away because eventually you're going to be voting on whether or not a law is passed in your city, county, or state concerning anything. And you're going to find out that most of you don't care about this. So you need to do another kind of voting. A vote no on subject matter. Yeah, a mass veto of the subject. You pass an ordinance that says that anybody bringing up this subject at the next meeting will be tarred and feathered. That's actually on the books in my hometown, by the way. I'm not going to tell you which one. Go look it up. And I'm not going to tell you what the subject was. Because it was a distraction. People kept bringing it up. It would cause arguments and nothing would get done. Somebody wanted to make sure that was maintained because it kept them in power as the mayor of that town. And that happened like 1920s or something. But it was still on the books. It was hilarious finding it on the paperwork. The point I'm making here, if anybody gives a damn, is that all of us are being led by the nose by doing viral campaigns. Every politician has to do a viral thing. They have to post something on the net or something. It has to be something that would perpetuate on the net. You know, like a cat video. So when was the last time a politician talked about re-aging of debts for medical debt? That's where you go to the hospital, and by definition, if you went to the hospital and had to stay there for a few days, you were medically incapable of paying your bill because you're too sick to go back to work, so you end up with a big bill you have to pay. And it gets sent to a collection agency where they charge you a fee for triple what you owe. Meanwhile, whoever you owe the money to wrote it off as a loss and stopped worrying about it. Wish everybody would just do that. And then if you don't pay the bill, someone else re-ages it before its past due date time to where they can keep collecting on it 10 or 20 years later. How many of you have run into that? Shouldn't there be a law against it? There are laws against it. Why aren't they enforced? Why aren't we discussing these things? Next one. Bills that take forever to pay that just keep escalating in cost. Same concept, but therefore getting training to be a doctor, which benefits everybody in society as long as they keep helping people. Or they can choose to do a Beverly Hills kind of thing and pay off their medical school debt, which means they drive up prices because it gets amplified too. Has a rippling effect, sort of a trickle-up economics. No, none of those are important. Let's talk about whether or not someone has a pet peeve or fear of somebody faking their gender, taking photos of them with a selfie stick in a restroom. When was the last time that actually happened? I mean that. I found 3 cases of that. They were of the same gender of the people that were in the room, in the bathroom, and they were non-bi-gender. There was no ambiguous gender here. Pro tip, one of the most common birth defects, and you have to call it that, is not to have one or another gender. It's to have a mixture of them or not have a gender. It's the most common physical or physiological issue a human being has when they're younger. And it's one of those things where you really seriously have to think, don't mess with it if it can fix itself. And in our society, traditionalists, they have to fix it. And the fix is usually wrong because you're going to be flipping a coin. And on the other end of the spectrum, we have people who say, oh, there is no such thing as gender, even though obviously there is. And the stupid part is, most of the people out there that you think would think that kind of thing aren't the majority of the population, and they're not the population you think it would apply to. Most people who are actual transgender or intersex, which is the correct term for the physical stuff, state factually, yes, this is abnormal, no, this isn't the majority of the population, and no, you're not triggering me, and they don't qualify as being conservative or liberal. They're a person with a medical condition and they're trying to cope with it. But then again, I have male pattern baldness, so trans follicle? Anyway, I got accused of being a conservative this week, and someone else got accused of being a conservative when they're not. Because that's all, when you can't do anything other than just insult someone by claiming they're part of a group you don't like, and you can't discuss the subject, you've lost. And I found 5 or 6 channels saying, why the hell is this happening? Just some food for thought. And we're all starving. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that.